What is going on with Tesla stock? Well, there's of course doom and gloom. I think it's time for a vibe check. Barron's has got a big story out saying that EVs are kind of doomed in 2025, and I take issue with that. I disagree pretty strongly, and maybe my good friend Herbert will disagree with it as well because he knows the same things I know, except in many ways he's more articulate about them. And then we're also going to look at some bad news that just popped up today and really get a sentiment on where investors' feelings should be at the moment. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So Herbert, we'll just start with this Barron story because it is Looney Tunes. Guys, if you're not following Herbert, please do that over on Brighter with Herbert. This is EV sales will tumble in 2025, what it means for Tesla and the rest of the auto industry. Yes, electric vehicle apocalypse is scheduled for 2025. Investors in all, of course, including Tesla, should buckle up for a bumpy ride because President-elect Donald Trump is widely expected to eliminate the EV purchase tax credits for as much as $7,500 per vehicle. If that happens, it amounts to a big price increase for most electric cars. Now, most models don't qualify for an EV tax credit. Most by volume certainly does, because that would be the Model Y and the Model 3, which generally qualify for virtually all buyers. So why would Volkswagen sell fewer cars if the tax credit's eliminated? Does that even make sense?
Well, so first of all, this idea that the tax credit's going to be eliminated, it's not going to happen right away, right? It needs approval, congressional approval, or there's some regulatory approval that needs to happen for this to happen. And two, the conversation that they've been having is not just let's drop the EV only; it's to drop a lot of other credits as well. So, I think what you've heard Elon say is he's not in favor of any kind of incentives, regardless if it's electric vehicle or gas cars. So that's just another thing to consider. The latest stats that came out just 2 weeks ago was showing that 97% of all electric vehicle owners will buy another electric vehicle. Like less than 1% said that they would switch back to a gas car. And just keep in mind that includes not just Tesla, right? It includes all other electric vehicles, which we know many of them are struggling with range and they can't get charging, and the quality of many of them are not as great as Tesla's. And yet, once they've bought an electric vehicle, they're going to buy more. So we're now in was that US only, or was that in that's US, right? So in the US, there's been we're close to 9%, 10% of all new car sales are electric vehicles, certainly helped by incentives. And so I think that if he's right and that the incentives are removed, there is going to be an impact. But I don't think it's going to be an apocalypse. I don't think it's going to be a roller coaster. It's going to there's also growth that's going to be happening, and then. So that's just my feeling is like, right, I don't see electric vehicles falling, maybe not growing as much if the way he described it happens. Now, secondly, the other thing that he's not considering now for Tesla specifically is autonomy, right? This full self-driving that's being shown now that people are realizing it's an actual real value add. That's going to be a huge demand driver. So I suspect that by the second half of this year, 2025, it's going to be more and more people aware that if you're buying a new car, regardless if it's EV or gas, you want it to have the ability to park itself, the ability to summon it, the ability to have a lot more safety to help you drive more than just, cruise control on a highway. These kinds of features, automatic emergency braking, that is much more powerful than just the standard one that's out there right now. And the features that Tesla offers, this is going to be a demand driver. So I am not in any way expecting Tesla sales to fall, regardless, even if they remove this incentive.
So I'm going to agree with you on all points. Let's start with the EV credit. Yes, President-elect Trump said he would like to eliminate that. But as you mentioned, when something is very difficult, they say it would take an act of Congress. That's like the metaphor for something that's very, very difficult. And in this case, that is what it would take to eliminate the EV credit. Could it even be eliminated? Yeah, maybe. But that's not a slam dunk. Elon has said, yes, he wants to eliminate all subsidies. That's not going to happen. The oil industry would never allow that. And their pockets are deep to a degree that make Elon look like he's in the poorhouse. So it's tricky. It's not going to happen right away. Certainly not in the first half of 2025. That would be, I think, a poor use of political capital. You've got momentum. You've taken all this power. You want to make big changes. This is low on the priority list. I am sure. So the EV credit, I'm not sure it's going away as quickly, but most cars don't qualify for it. Jumping back to the article here, we will see that there is also, it's been a terrible year for German EV sales. What changed is pricing, subsidies in particular. Germany had purchase subsidies that lowered the price of a car by $5,000 to roughly $42,000. But the government cut the subsidies, so the $42,000 car is now $47,000, up 12%. That drove demand down 26%. This is price elasticity for those who don't know. If you could charge $5,000 more for something without impacting sales, you would. That's just how that works. That drove demand down. Applying similar math to the US means investors should expect EV sales to fall by that amount. That ignores so many realities, but the biggest one in just this limited example is that the vast majority of models for sale are not impacted by the IRA credits. Even Tesla has some models that are not eligible for that credit. So I think all of this is pretty bad writing, pretty lazy writing, and ignores all the realities, just kind of all of them.
There you go. He did mention too that Tesla is planning to introduce more affordable vehicles. So that could, give you more of a lineup. If you can't afford the more expensive vehicles, you got these things that are still available if that's important to you. And then secondly, maybe there's going to be more interest rate cuts, and then hopefully that will then translate. It's not immediate. As soon as they cut the interest rates, doesn't mean it's going to show up in financing for cars, but it may then start showing up as well. So
it is tough to say. Now, if we're going to be talking about all things scary and terrifying, we of course need to share the latest breaking news. This came out Wednesday morning, New Year's Day. Smoke rising at Trump Tower. No, they did not select a new pope. It is a fire in a Cybertruck. But unfortunately, we don't have, as of recording, we don't have more information. That fire's on the inside. The battery pack is underneath. It is unclear that this fire is from the vehicle itself and not from arson, for example. And without more information, my concern is that it will be spun into something.
Exactly. I'd bet my bottom dollar that it is arson. The loud blast was heard at the scene, and it's at the Trump Tower. Obviously they're making a statement that is spontaneous, explosion without a crash, nothing like that. It's more likely that that's what happened.
It's either scenario is pretty rare, is pretty unlikely, which is why we've only seen it happen once. And we don't know the cause. My concern isn't that this happened. My concern is that even if we find out that someone did, committed a crime there and put accelerant in it and set it ablaze, that even if that were the case, the message will already be out: fire.
Yeah, they're going to do it. No doubt right now. MSM's mainstream media is going crazy, and they're going to do it. They're going to take this and say, they always do, right? How many stories for the last 5 years has been Tesla autopilot kills 2 teenagers, and then they find out that no, it wasn't turned on. No, they were actually driving fast, and it was, they were drunk. And I'm sorry to laugh because obviously I shouldn't be, but it's just that is what almost every single one of them, right? It's like later, but unfortunately, like you said, 6 months later, a year later, they do investigation, they report that, but it's
and they do report it, and they do report it. I've seen people say, well, they never report the correction. They do. It just doesn't go viral in the same way. You don't see. You will see if you go to Reddit, which I do not recommend, you will see posts on the front page every day saying things like, well, Elon didn't start any of these companies. He didn't start SpaceX. What? Yes, he did. He didn't start Starlink. What are you talking? Yes, he did. They're never going to build a tunnel. The tunnels are open. I've been in them. What are you talking about? When you put lies in, I just assume the rest of everything you have to say generally is BS. And now, of course, we've got, well, Elon is Adrian Dittman. Adrian does hours and hours of spaces like every day. And I know they're not the same person because Adrian Dittman will actually answer my DMs. Well, he will. He's a great guy. As far as I can tell. I mean, maybe he's a monster and I just don't know it yet. So we've got a bit of a vibe check here. This is the stock performance. Now, last week we saw, over the past months, we've seen a lot of climbing. And over the past week, we've seen the opposite. As of this video coming out, the market is not quite open yet. So we will find out, or actually, I'm not sure when this video will run, but the idea is that the last 4 trading days have been all red. And my gosh, have I seen some real sentiment shift from people who I generally consider to be optimistic, positive folks. Some real negativity, infighting, attacking each other, getting mad about just nothing. Well, what's your advice to the people who are seeing a very short-term shift like this?
Okay. Well, I mean, it's, things that go up really fast, very high likely that they're going to fall really fast as well, right? Sometimes they overshoot what it really is, like you called it, a sentiment shift. However, the other big sentiment shift that actually matters more, I think, is when you look at what happened in the last 6 months. So 6 months ago, on July 1st, do you know which stock was the most shorted stock of all stocks out there?
When? 6 months ago?
6 months ago. By
NVIDIA?
No, it's Tesla.
3 months ago?
6 months ago. 6 months ago. Tesla was the most shorted stock out of 338 fund managers, right? Hedge funds. Guess what it is now? Tesla's now number 11 in the top 20 most held institutional stocks. Wow. So that's the big sentiment shift. And that's a huge sentiment shift, right? It wasn't just, oh, it's a good stock, I better invest in it. No, it was like, it is so bad, I better short it, to now, I think it's going to be the best. You have to hold it. Yeah. So that's a huge sentiment shift. Now, what we're seeing here is a weekly up, weekly down. Yes, this is what's expected. It's normal. Now, it's kind of complicated because it's like the end of the year, right? Lots of things are happening at the end of the year. There's we've had a number of institutional analysts. I've interviewed a number of them the last several weeks talking about window dressing, where because the stock has done so well, it's tripled since January of 2024 to the end of 2024, it tripled. That's where the sign where, okay, I cannot, as an institutional a portfolio manager, not be holding it at the end of the year. And so they buy it at the end of the year. So we saw it rise up. We saw volume, specifically volume, outsized volume compared to normal at the beginning of the trading day, at the end of the trading day. And Simon Hale, he himself is a portfolio manager. He explained in one of the videos I did where what they will do, and what all the other kind of institutions do, is they will have an algorithm that will buy because they need to buy. And they have multi-millions that they need to buy, but they don't want to show their hands. And so what they'll do is they'll buy at the beginning of the day. And then when the stock rises too much, they stop and they completely stop. And you can see it, the volume go almost to nothing. And then at the end of the day, they go, okay, I need to complete my order, what I said I was going to do. And they pop in again at the end of the day. Okay. So when you see that, that's a telltale sign to him that just like he does, the algorithms, that there's these institutions throwing money in. And so the stock goes up. Now at the end of the month, there are some institutions need to let go of it. Now, we were all expecting it to happen here in the first week after January. So some kind of like just put the name into their portfolio so that they can report end of year. And then the new year, they don't want to be holding it, so they get out, right? So we should expect some more loss. So at the end of the day, as a retail investor, there are manipulations that have been happening. And this is all AI driven, algorithm driven. And so of course, these guys have access to the most, microsecond tools. As a retail analyst, retail investor, don't play with that, and don't just, when you see it go up or down, it's not related to the fundamentals of the business. If you saw the Cybertruck fire and you believe the Cybertruck is a hell of a product and it's going to be fires everywhere, maybe you might go, okay, that's a problem. But actually, it's not, right? It's not a fundamental issue. Nothing's fundamentally wrong. The company's doing really well. This can be fluctuations.
Exactly. That is very well said. Yeah, if your fund manager wanted to short it at 200 and then was excited to buy it at 350 a few months later, my friends, I don't know what to tell you. Guys, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it in them comments below. Head over to Brighter with Herbert, see what he's up to. And don't forget, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, we do a live show with Nick from Investing Against the Grain, where we get even deeper into a whole lot of this stuff. Stay tuned, stay juicy. I cannot wait to hear from you, clever robots on the flippity flop.